Thanks for joining me, I'm Aaron Rutten, and today I'll be giving you a hands-on look at the Wacom One 14 display tablet. Since I've already reviewed the predecessor of this tablet, this won't be a full review. I'm only covering what has changed and whether the upgrade is worth it. This is not a sponsored video, but Wacom did send me these tablets for free, unconditionally for review purposes. As always, all opinions in this video are my own. The Wacom One display tablet line is an affordable entry point into making digital art directly on a screen. The Wacom One 14 is the third generation of this line, and I'm excited to learn what it has to offer. Let's review some of the key differences in hardware. These comparison charts can be downloaded for free. I'll put a link in the video description. The first thing you may notice is that the 14-inch tablet is smaller than the 13-inch tablet. Despite having a width that is similar to the 13 Touch, the Wacom One 14 offers a 12.2 by 6.9 inch active area, giving you about 10% more room for your strokes. If you look at the bezel, you can see that's what's accounting for the Wacom One 13 being larger. The 14-inch model has a much thinner bezel. You know me, I like my bezels, but in this case, it's for the sake of portability, so I'll let it slide. The Wacom One 14 is about 20% lighter and 2mm thinner than the previous generation. Again, that larger bezel is adding weight. I can definitely feel the difference in size and weight. This is a tablet that will probably sit on a table, so the weight really only matters when you're carrying this around. In a backpack, I don't think you'd feel the weight difference as much. One of the most significant differences is that the newer Wacom One 14 does not support multi-touch. There is sort of a trade-off happening here because the touch sensor likely makes the tablet thicker, adds weight, and affects power consumption. Normally, this could be a deal breaker, but I think this is a unique matchup here. If you compare prices, the Wacom One 13 Touch is actually more expensive. The 13 Touch has a convoluted customization process, so once you add the necessary accessories, you might be paying even more. Normally, you pay less for an older version. The specs aren't much different, as we will learn, so in a sense, you are paying more just for touch functionality should you require it. Personally, I think touch is a nice feature to have since it comes in handy for zooming, rotating, and panning your canvas. I suppose you could supplement the Wacom One 14 with a shortcut controller like the Tourbox, and that would make touch less essential. At least the Wacom One 14 comes with all the necessary accessories. You can customize the pen, but you don't have to. As far as the build quality, the plastic shell is still white with a grainy texture. The 13 Touch feels rougher. The back is similar as well, but the rubber feet are thinner in both depth and diameter on the 14-inch model. However, the 13 Touch feels like it has a better grip on my desk. The 14 slides a bit. Moving on to the differences in the display, both screens are IPS displays in Full HD 1920 by 1080 resolution. 99% of sRGB color is supported by the 13 Touch, and only 98% by the Wacom One 14. Not a huge difference in color, but the Wacom One 14 only has half of the contrast ratio of the 13 Touch. As you can see, the blacks are richer on the 13 Touch. The brightness also differs, with the 13 Touch being a lot brighter at 320 nits and the Wacom One 14 at only 285 nits. The Wacom One 14 is ENERGY STAR certified though, while the 13 Touch is not. Working indoors, both tablets are acceptably bright. Overall, the image quality seems better to me on the 13 Touch. I think this is mostly the greater contrast making everything feel sharper. Both devices have anti-fingerprint, anti-glare surfaces. The Wacom One 14 feels a little rougher because it has bonded and etched glass. This makes drawing on it feel more like drawing on paper. Both devices' displays can be powered off using a button. A second button opens the display settings, which you can use to change the brightness, color, and other settings. You can use the pen to navigate through these menus, which is convenient. As far as connectivity goes, both models can be connected to a computer with a single USB-C cable, allowing your USB-C port supports Display Alt Mode or Thunderbolt 3. Both devices support Windows and Mac. The USB port is on the left side of the Wacom One 14, and on the top on the left side on the 13 Touch. The 13 Touch has an extra USB-C port because it also supports Android devices like smartphones and tablets. A separate power source is required for this, which is where the second USB port comes in. The Wacom One 14 does not support this feature. Why, you ask? I'll come back to that. Both devices come with the Wacom One pen. I've already covered the Wacom One pen in my other reviews, so I won't say any more about it. Both devices also support third-party pens if you want a more traditional aesthetic. There are loads of accessories for the 13 Touch. Many of these work with the Wacom One 14 as well. I would recommend the stand since it's very lightweight and portable. A case is also a must-have so you don't scratch your screen up. The 13 Touch supports a clear shell to protect the back of the tablet from a desk and encourages customization via stickers, but I don't know how essential that one is. That covers what separates the Wacom One 14 from the 13 Touch, but now I'd like to share another option because you might find it's more suitable than the Wacom One 14. The MovinkPad 11 was released before the Wacom One 14, and the MovinkPad Pro 14 was released around the same time. The MovinkPad tablets are very similar to the Wacom One 14 in that they are display tablets that are very thin and light. The main difference is that the MovinkPad tablets do not need to be connected to a computer. They have their own Android operating system, storage, and other hardware. If portability and convenience are your main objectives, then you might consider the MovinkPad line. They are more expensive, but also more versatile. You can even connect them wirelessly to a desktop or laptop, or use a standard USB cable, not one of these thick ones that the Wacom One 14 requires. Trying to connect to a smartphone and power outlet with two cables is just plain messy. It was a cool gimmick at the time, and it paved the way for better Android support, but it has not aged well. It really makes more sense just to have Android on the device, thus it's not a feature offered on the Wacom One 14. The MovinkPad line also supports multi-touch, which is yet another incentive to choose the MovinkPad line over the Wacom One. The MovinkPad even comes with a better pen, the Pro Pen 3. This pen is far superior to the Wacom One pen with better sensitivity and features. Both the Wacom One 14 and the MovinkPad line are suitable for beginners and younger artists. In my opinion, the MovinkPads are better since they contain everything you need. They're as convenient to use as a sketchbook. The Wacom One 14 requires you to connect it to a computer with a cumbersome cable and at least be somewhat proficient with Mac or Windows. Android is much simpler and intuitive to use. But the MovinkPad also appeals to professionals. The Wacom One 14 feels more like a beginner or hobbyist tablet. The MovinkPads are more capable with a premium feel. There aren't many reasons to choose the Wacom One 14. One would be if you want a more simplified connection to a desktop or laptop. The MovinkPad connectivity is still in beta, and while it works really well, it can be a little complicated to set up, and you can experience the occasional connection issue. So, while the Wacom One 14 is cool, I just don't feel impressed by it. Don't get me wrong, if you can't afford the MovinkPad or you don't need those extra features, then it's definitely an excellent way to get into drawing on a screen. But I just think you'd be better off with the MovinkPad if that's an option for you. I hear you, Wacom One 13 owners. You want to know, is it worth spending the money to upgrade? I don't think so. You have basically the same tablet, but with multi-touch and Android support. 10% more drawing room and slightly less bulk aren't going to be noticeable. The Wacom One 14 feels like it's more for new customers. It's a bridge to get you to MovinkPad land, unless you're willing to settle for less to get a more affordable device. I hate to keep talking about the MovinkPad line, but that's where I would go if I wanted to really feel like I upgraded. In conclusion, the Wacom One 14 has its strengths, such as a low profile and easy connectivity, and it's an affordable entry point into digital art. Considering the price of tablets nowadays, it's a pretty good deal. You can support this review by using the affiliate links in the video description to purchase any of the tablets. I may earn a commission, but it won't cost you anything extra. That's all for this review. I hope you found this information helpful. If you did, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more digital art tech reviews. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.